to our webinar. My name is Amber Toole, and I am going to be your host for tonight. I am a studio owner in Ocala, Florida, and I'm also on the SCW faculty. And I am so excited to be joined by this amazing panel tonight. Y'all are going to get so much great information. And let me take a little moment to introduce you to each of our esteemed guests. First off, we have Paul Christopher. He is the founder and owner of Gravity and Oxygen Fitness in Boca Raton, Florida. We have Sheldon McBee, who is the executive director at Universal Athletic Club, a Wellbeats content creator, and an ACE certified personal trainer and group fitness instructor with 19 years in the health and fitness industry. We have Elizabeth Lennart, who is an international fitness educator, content creator, and mental health advocate with 25 plus years in the industry, and she is known for her dynamic coaching and innovative programming. We also have with us Evans Armentrading Jr. He's the CEO of CNU Stretch and the founder of CNU Fit. He is a fitness industry leader who is helping gym owners increase revenue and client loyalty through stretch therapy programs. And he's also a U.S. Air Force veteran. And we have Marissa Hall, who is the director of operations at the Empower Group, a full-service consulting firm based in California. So welcome to each of you. And let's get into this, how we can dominate revenue with small group training. First question, I am going to throw to Sheldon McBee. Sheldon, what are the best pricing strategies for small group training?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Amber. Appreciate that. And hello to everybody who's listening. I'll answer this question from a unique perspective because I operate a very large, high-end health club. I mean, it's 10,000 members, 110,000 square foot facility with a lot of amenities. And one of the things we do really well is small group training. I mean, we bill about $1.7 million a year in training. About 80% of that comes from small group. So we really had to work hard to figure out what pricing is going to hit the sweet spot to have the greatest amount of volume and penetration. We wanted at least 5 to 7% penetration in small group training. So what we did is we said, okay, we did some market research and looked at the a la carte rate to sit at about $40 for us, for our market that suited us. Then we said to ourselves, okay, we want to have a model where when you present price, it shows high value. You don't see sticker shock when you see it. It encourages high usage. And more than anything, you get great results because you're very consistent using it. So we ended up, of course, we have paid in full models. We have short-term intro models. What we do is this: we charge a high ticket amount upfront just to join the club. It could cost $200 to $300 upfront. And then from there, you could start your billing. We delay the billing for anyone who does small group training for a month because that initial payment is like the skin in the game, okay? The trainer, we have one of 3 different kinds of program types they could join. But once they start billing, what we do is we then try to get them onto a bi-weekly billing. You bill every 2 weeks. You could do monthly, you could do paid in full. We settled in on bi-weekly billing. The reason we did that is because when you could pick 1, 2, or 3 times a week, and that rate is about 40 to 45% lower than the a la carte rate. So sometimes you'd be down to $23, $24, $25 a session. You're paid bi-weekly. The sessions expire in 17 days. And so what that creates is a sense of urgency that I need to use my sessions or they go away. Now, if you're someone who wants to accrue sessions because you don't want your sessions go away, well, then we just take 10% off the $40 a la carte rate, closer to $36 to $35 a session. You're billed every 2 weeks. You pay a little more, but your sessions accrue. That the pricing is fair, and when you present price in front of somebody, they're looking at a number that's much more palatable. Even though it's bi-weekly, it's palatable. I can accept that. I just add it on to my membership. It allows people the flexibility to freeze after 3 months of under this model. We also get, if you do bi-weekly billing, you get 2 extra billings a year. So that really helps to get just a little bit extra revenue coming in by the end of the year. It works well for us. And plus the trainers get paid a bi-weekly payroll based on their roster's revenue. So for them, they see less fluctuation in their income seasonally.
Great. And Evans, I think you had a really great example of this as well. Would you like to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me on this evening. And so we're a boutique studio. We're small. We're like a tenth of the size of Sheldon's gym. Our largest gym is 3,500 square feet. So for us, we do have a registration, fee when someone launches. It's about $200 to register, and that covers all assessments, movement screens, programming, design, and everything else. And then they also do it. So the way we encourage people, and there's the same model we use, is kind of look at if you're switching over to a small group and trying to figure out your price point, you think, what is a one-on-one rate for my area? And then if you're about 50%, 40 to 50% of whatever that one-on-one rate is, that's always a good small group rate. Now for us, we call it semi-private, same thing, but it maxes out at 4 people for us. So we do up to 4 people within that session. So ours run between $35 to $45 a session is what it would add up to. Now, just like Sheldon said, to prevent you missing those two pay cycles, what we do is if someone's on a 6 month agreement, then we consider it as 26 weeks and just divide it by 6 months, and now we can bill them monthly. Similarly, if they're on a year agreement, we just say it's 52 weeks. So we have all those weeks accounted for and divided that by 12 and we get monthly. And that kind of helps. And then the team's responsibility is to keep attendance at 95% or greater and keep people engaged with the process.
And Paul, I know you also have a facility down in Boca
Hmm.
Raton. How do you do your pricing for your small group training?
So we haven't had small group training as a mainstay for a while. So as we're renovating our facility and evolving and pivoting to an overall wellness component where we have physical therapy, acupuncture, and soft tissue, we see these practitioners as feeders and cross pollination. So with that, we recognize that they can't handle the rigors of a fast-paced class. So as we're posturing for this, we right now want to honor our current group people, but we got to make sure that they're not cannibalizing available spots for the new people coming in. We do really well with our one-to-one person training. So finding that sweet spot is what we're factoring. So I'm as much a spectator in this conversation as I am someone speaking. So we are looking at different models of not only what we're charging for that sweet spot for the ratio, but also what our reimbursement is for the practitioner who's leading this. So that's something as you, the viewer of this webinar, are probably curious as to. If you may be a supervisor as well. So you're looking at what's the net you're looking for. We're boutique. We are 5,000 square feet indoor, outdoor, and we're looking at the select times. What are the sweet spots time-wise where we can maximize that dollar revenue? So I think somewhere in that $30 to $45 per person range. We've had a lot of success in the past with our group model with offering recurring memberships of EFT for 1, 2, or 3 times per week. So look at it as 4, 8, or 12 per month. So I think we're going to revert back to that model for the Summit Private, just once again, increasing the price point per person or per session. I'm already loving what I'm hearing in regards to the biweekly billing. I'm loving the idea of the introductory registration because they're now invested in committing as a client and then maintaining high ratio of attendance. So that's my 2 cents right now.
Yeah, that's what we do in my studio too. The every 4 week charging, whether you come once, twice, or 3 times a week, it's fairly simple for us.
Yep.
So next, I would like for you guys to really talk about how we can, in those small group trainings, design programs that deliver personalized results when you're not necessarily working with somebody just one-on-one. And I feel like Elizabeth is going to have some really great answers to this one.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here to chat about this with all of you. Um, some things that have been really, really successful to bring a unique experience is to offer really specialized, unique small group trainings. Some of them might be something like intro to a particular type of lift or an intro to a type of dance or maybe to intro to rowing. And those are scheduled during off-peak times to give people that really super individual attention because the facility is quieter, right? And they start to become familiar with the space. And then using those feeders as an opportunity to get them to build some confidence in themselves and in how it feels to be in the group that they're in, letting them expand their wings a little bit and trying different types of fitness. And that's worked especially well for people who may not have a particular training goal in mind. They want to be fit, they want to be well. So giving them a nice individualized, specialized attention in an area that means something to them, instead of coming into the gym and just saying, well, I'm not really sure how I use these things. They get to pick the topics. And sometimes, depending on availability, we let them choose topics that they'd like to create a small group for as well.
Awesome. Good. And Evans, how do you do that in your boutique studios?
Yes, so we kind of look at movement as a whole, right? There's only so many ways you can move the body. And so what we did is, I think we started back in 2019 doing it this way. We created like a template of this is how, if someone was to first start with us. Now we specialize in people that are 40 and above. And so it's not uncommon for us to have a 65-year-old, a 72-year-old training at the same time as a 40-year-old in a session. But we kind of look at what are their goals. We screen, so begin with screening to kind of see what are limitations. And then we go, okay, based on this exercise, what do we need to customize for this person at that time? So they'll share time is the idea behind it. And then and this kind of almost leads into further conversation, but they're sharing time, but they're also getting individual things. So everybody's not doing the same thing at the same time. You're doing what's custom to you. It's just the trainer is able to go, okay, well, you're squatting, you're doing a chest press, you're doing this, and they're able to cue and correct at the same time. So we're always thinking about what the client's goal is. And the last part of that is communicating to the client that this is what we're doing so that it can help you accomplish whatever your said goal is. So we're tying the activity back to whatever their functional goal is.
Great. And Sheldon, now you're going to take us with a much larger facility. So how do y'all do that in yours?
Yeah, it's a different approach with the same idea. Because we're such a large facility, we segmented our small group training into 3 pods. You want to look better, move better, or perform better. And we have centralized programming for the 3. So a client comes in, they tell you all their needs. We say, you fit better in this thing. Once you get into that program, what happens is you can then add correctives and regressions based on their functional movement screen and scans based on the pre-designed centralized program, because we just find scalable programming just works for us, but you can individualize it, like Evan said, based on the individual. But I want to make a really important point to everyone listening. Half of this whole thing about hyper-personalization, was the big buzzword right now, is the art and science of coaching. Being really good at dividing your time among the group, giving really powerful external cues that trigger quick movement response throughout the workout, and paying attention to working on almost like a grid that everybody gets a touch point by the end of the session makes people feel like they got paid attention to in the workout. That goes beyond X's and O's and more art and science. So it's really about working with you and your team to say, how do you have regular touch points, quick cues, great demonstrations so people get it earlier? Can I get the workout to my clients a day or 2 ahead so they can walk in with questions and adjustments I need right away? That's the stuff that helps create hyper-personalization.
Magnificent, Sheldon. Everybody at home needs to be taking notes on what he just said. And Paul, I know a little bit about your style of what you do, so I really would like for you to tell the group about that.
I think segueing into, you're basically cataloging people in a good way. So generally people coming for aesthetics, reduction of pain, or perhaps athletics, or whatever they do as an activity. So I think by giving some people some sense of direction, that is probably a really good way to lead people through the FORT journey. But then there's also the general wellness concept where maybe they're getting a little dose of each. So I think what gets measured gets managed. So what do we have as our common resources? Something like an in-body device where we can get composition. There could be a simple movement screen, squat, stamina, what is your ring hang? What is your EQ bar hold? What are your push-ups for reps? What might be your hex bar deadlift reps for your body weight? So I think there's a battery test that can lead people down the funnel of really choosing based upon what they want to go through, whether it's look, better, move, or general wellness. And they're already seeing the value in the semi-private training just by that initial assessment. So between the registration, you have them financially committed. And then by doing a movement screen within the first week or 2, now they understand the actual benefit of being supervised, but in a cost affordable way as opposed to the one-on-one or generalization of group training. So I think that formula is the winning concoction.
Awesome. All right, Marissa, I want to ask you, what marketing tactics attract clients to small group sessions?
Well, one of the things we did when we ran our club was we were very intentional about things we did as a facility and things that the people leading the small groups would do. So it was a partnership in getting people in. So obviously we would be marketing on social media using testimonials from people who were actually in the programs and talking about the benefits that they received and how much they enjoyed it. We would make sure that there were all the traditional flyers out. You know, anyone who's tied to their own small group wants it to be the foremost thing that's in the facility, and we had to make sure that everyone had promotion. But then we also gave them the skills and the training needed so they could promote their own small group. So our trainers would be invite people to come into your small group, go to the larger group exercise classes and introduce yourself, attend, be involved as part of this facility. It was very important to us that a practitioner wasn't just sitting waiting for people to be into their small group training. It was an active part on theirs and on ours as well to make sure that those programs were getting filled.
Nice. That's great. I know in my studio, one of the things that's been really great as far as a marketing tactic is to use pictures on our social media of the actual people in our small group. I have had more people who will call me and say, I saw my neighbor in your pictures, or I didn't know that my friend went to your studio. And then when they saw someone who was their friend and like them, they wanted to be in a group with people who were like them, because we cater to an over 40 crowd. And, so not that anything's wrong with this, but we don't have 20-year-olds running around with their shirts off and their sports bras and showing their cute little flat bellies, so that is something that for some of the women that we work with, that can be really, nerve-wracking to think you're going to go into a place like that. So they see those pictures and they're like, oh, this is where I belong, because that's not what I'm looking for. So that's one of our tactics. Elizabeth, what do you do for marketing?
I agree with you about using photos of the people that are actually in the group. I think that speaks volumes. Social media, for sure. We also share with ideas about other programs, the in-house marketing through challenges and guest instructors. So as maybe there's a challenge within the group training and somebody comes in, or maybe there's a guest speaker that comes in, talks about another type of group training to let them know, is this going to be something that's more strength training? So we used to do something that was a Tabata boot camp training, which you might have heard of years ago. And at the time we were trying to get our people to lift, and they were afraid. It was something that they had not yet done. So we had some of our trainers who specialized in Olympic and powerlifting come in, do a little meet and greet, had a challenge, and those ladies went right into it in the next session. So it was great. So a lot of cross marketing through challenges and guest speakers.
Awesome. Evans, how about you? What are your best marketing tactics?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of multiple poles in the water, right? So what I mean is, and again, everything is subjective to where you are in your journey. Are you in a large gym? Are you, a solopreneur? But, there's a lot of power offline. So early in my career, I built a large part of my business by attending chamber mixers. Is identify who your ideal client avatar is and go where they are. So that's what we did. We went to the chamber, we joined the chamber, we networked, and we developed these professional relationships, and be very clear on what problem you're solving for whom. So even today, when I have my people online do marketing, excuse me, they don't just go like join our gym, do our program. We're targeting this specific group of people, helping them solve this specific problem with our service. And people love that because they get the feeling like you hear me, you see me, you get me. And I think that's a solid way to do marketing.
Great. And Paul, I know you're surrounded by tons of fitness people down there in Boca Raton. So what do you guys do to stand out with your marketing tactics?
So we've certainly, from an SEO standpoint, we've hired, a guru to help us with, keywords, marketing in regards to, what are some of the keyword searches that other gyms aren't doing. So we try to find those gaps, and then we try to fill those spots, and we try to increase our ranking when it comes to searches. We've used social media for sure. Facebook, Instagram stories. We're having our stories always open and available. We use graphics. We leverage with the community. I think Sheldon or Evans had mentioned talking about go-to mixers where your avatar client is. So I'm part of a group called Men Giving Back. So basically, it may be an investment for me to be with these higher echelon financial advisors and planners and millionaires in town, but that's my clientele. I'm all about the avatar of men 40 to 60, and I hold something called Bro Lift twice a week. So my private, I've had a lot of success with it. So I invest in going to these events because it's a philanthropy, but those are my clientele. Those are my people. So with a background also being a certified athletic trainer, the people who are in orthopedic care. So I'm always creating relationships with massage therapists, with physical therapists. I know every physical therapist within a 5-mile radius, and that is great marketing, especially people who have total knee replacements. We're here in Retirement Haven, so we have tons of hip replacements, total knees. So if you've done amazing work by then they're your avatar. They're mavens that are going to send more people to you. So that is free 99 marketing. So that's what I do. I try to stay within my wheelhouse, my skill set, and then those people have instantly sent referrals. And then I'm able to delegate that to my staff based upon me having confidence that they can handle the same kind of clientele.
Great. Sheldon, I feel like you're going to have a much bigger budget than the rest of us. So definitely share with us about your marketing techniques.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we do it for the whole club, right? And then the small group training is a part of the whole thing. But I guess to stay within the scope of what we're talking about here, like we have an omni-channel approach to the whole thing, similar to what I think Evans was getting at, multiple poles in the water, which I love that analogy. So we have our SEO optimization, similar to what Paula does. We've got physical collateral around the actual county and area. We do different types of stuff on social media to draw attention, and we do paid targeted ads that based on household income and where your actual physical location is of your SSID to ping your phone with certain content. So we pay for this kind of stuff to get the right message to the right person at the right time, which again, Evans, I think was kind of saying but the biggest thing I want to say to everybody, and well, Evans, I'll give you one more shout out. You kind of stole my thunder. A good book called Donald Miller Story Brand. If you guys haven't read this book, you must read it. It's brilliant. And his message is this: the first thing that someone needs to see online, on a keyword search, on your website, needs to be, what problem do you solve for me? If that's not the key thing, your product doesn't matter. What your training doesn't matter. None of it matters. The initial thing you need to get hit between the eyes is, are you going to help me be a better person if I engage you? Then the second statement or thing they need to see is then your product. What do you do? How do you fix it? But then after that, there's got to be 3 steps. Step 1, 2, 3, how I actually buy your product and service and get started. Click here, do this, and the third step happens. It needs to be that simple in your marketing. All of the other stuff that isn't that is probably fluff when you're marketing right now. And so it's really good idea that if you haven't read the book, read it and fine tune your marketing message omni-channel, and you'll see that. But to keep it simple, last thing I'll say for our club, I think I said it before, we have the 3 small group training model: look, move, and feel better. And we use that as a staple behind making our product kind of be the purple cow in the field. It stands out. So that's in a nutshell what we do.
Great ideas from all of y'all. Thank you so much. And I'm going to come back to Marissa, and I would love to hear how you would boost engagement and loyalty in small group training.
And someone asked the name of the book. It's Story Brand. He actually just released Story Brand 2.0 by Donald Miller. So as far as engagement, I think the atmosphere lends itself to engagement, but what I think we need to do as operators and practitioners is be intentional about how we're fostering engagement. Yes, it'll happen naturally. People are in the room and they're doing hard things together, but we have to be very intentional. So we're making sure that we're doing introductions, that we're connecting people. It could be that you're doing a Facebook group for this particular group of people that is doing a weight loss challenge. You may be doing mixers or parties at the end. You're celebrating results of individuals within the group setting. So we have to just be very specific about how we're fostering that engagement and making sure that we're intentional. And it may be that those of you have the natural ability to do that with a group, but you also have to train your trainers and the people who are leading these small groups how to do that, how to introduce people. Oh, you know, Amber, she works out here at 6 a.m. every day, and so do you, Evans. You two would love to work out together. So we have to really train people how to do that because it doesn't come naturally for everyone.
I agree. Evans, since she said you and I would work out well together, why don't you tell us about how you guys boost
Yes.
engagement in your club?
So at our space, right, it has to be a systematized. Everything Marissa said, right? So it's about systems. So for us, we've identified what are these like peak moments? What are these opportunities? Like, you figure someone sits down, they just spent all this money, and then what happens next. So we kind of stripped out that client journey and identify like where are those moments where they need that unique touch point. So as soon as someone signs up, they get a video message from the training staff saying, "Hey, Amber, this is Evans from Senior Fit. I'm so pumped. You shared with, Sheldon this goal, and we're going to be creating your program for you. We look forward to seeing you at XYZ time." So just creating those little touch points along the way. And then very similar to what Marissa said, right? We have to connect them with someone else. So we always talk about like they have to fall in love with our mission, our purpose, who we are, but then they also have to like fall in love with someone else, who's doing it, and they have to fall in love with the training team. And so we are really big on like XYZ is not your trainer, CNU Fit's your trainer. Like we are all your trainers. So we create this cohesiveness. So if I'm out of town or someone's out of town, anybody can train that person. And then, a good book, since we're dropping books here, is The Power of Moments by Damage Head Heath. They talk about, identifying those key moments in people's journey. And then I think that the last piece is like for us, we have a client care system. So Mondays, texts go out, Tuesdays, they send a voice message, Wednesdays, a video message. We have a whole like pattern of things that happen to people. So every client gets touched twice unexpectedly throughout the course of the month. So they're getting this like touch point, and it could be an encouragement. It could be something about, something we even like say, we're talking about something, I'd give you a book. So we create a budget for that, to create it. But it's just really being in the moment with the person. So nothing tells someone you care as much as when you're actually paying attention to them. I think many times we listen to speak instead of we listen to hear. So we're always drilling like, are you hearing what they're saying? Are you being present with them? And are you finding those little magic moments and giving them a fist bump? We have clients that stick really long time just by you saying, "Man, you did a really good job. I know we've been working on your deadlift form, but you crushed it today." And that's what they needed. So we practice speaking life into our people.
I love that. You make people feel special and not just another number in your studio. Elizabeth, how about you? How do y'all boost engagement and loyalty?
Oh, definitely through creating connection. I love all the things that people are sharing about touch points and creating community within the group. And we do that with ambassadors in the program. So people who are, the big sisters, so to speak, who have been around the block a little bit, who can help with things during the session, outside of the session. How do I access this? We do a lot of celebrations, big wins, small wins, things that are related to what's happening in the studio, and then things that are happening outside the studio. So a lot of social events, a lot of letting people feel seen and heard within those events. So definitely little gifts, little things that people see, leaving a little note. So I like the idea of the touch points. When you have, if you are a little lower budget, or maybe if you still appreciate the handwritten note, like putting some of those things out for people as they're leaving, maybe you in class with a meditation, for example, and someone's walking around the room and they're leaving like a handwritten note to all of the people who have trained with them and letting them know the celebration of all of their wins throughout the entire time of the training. So we do little things like that that make people feel really seen and heard, but that personal piece goes a little old school. So it's a little different that way.
Yeah, I like that. How about in your facility, Sheldon?
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth, I love what you said there about celebrating small wins. That is extremely important. That is, we have a like a 6 phase retention journey. And in the beginning, the first thing we focus on is what they see before they sign an agreement. So there's certain things we do in marketing, and we try to pre-frame the experience. Like if you do this, you're going to experience all these great things. When they sign the agreement, we try to make a big deal out of it so they don't go home having buyer's remorse. So it's usually very celebratory. We give them a gift. We don't let them get far out of the building before they get the phone call and the congratulatory email. And so they go home to whoever it is and say, look at this great decision I made. And then in their first session, we always gift them in the first session free towel, free water bottle, free wristband to get this stuff that they feel like they're special, you know. And then once they get an assessment, but the assessment is just for a formality. As to Elizabeth's point, we teach the coaches to make a big deal anytime to do any little thing good. Try to write it down, try to record it. When they come in next week, I want you to try to recognize that they hold the plank just 5 seconds longer. Were they able to move from an unassisted, from an upper body assisted squat to unassisted? Make sure you mention it while you coach, because they start to fall in love with the little mini dopamine kicks instead of a big reward of big weight loss and strength gain over time. And they feel they like it. And then we do Perkville at our facility. So you get loyalty points just for walking in the club, wearing your MyZone. And anytime you get a certain number of points, we make a big deal out of it. You get all this cool swag and people just like that. And once a year, we do a really fun thing. It is a member, it's a client appreciation party. So we'll go into our room and we'll get, coffee, muffins, and donuts. I know it's bad. I know it's not healthy. I'm sorry, but we just do it. But we do, like, we give them little colored bands. It's like silver, gold, like based on how long you've been with the program. And they feel really special. And around the room, we have these like circuits. So it's like a carnival. You can go to each thing, do an exercise based on the reps, you get a little score. It's a whole event. And we invite our members to that. And it just makes them feel like they're part of something bigger than their basic membership. If someone chooses to cancel or freeze, we don't say like, hey, sign the paperwork, great. We try to make we have a big exit strategy where we give them programming, we give them some swag as a goodbye. There's a whole thank you process for being part of it. So they always leave on this good note so that when we do a win back strategy later on, they feel good about coming back when the time is right in their life. So it's a whole journey that we had to create to get that loyalty, which takes work, but it's worth it.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
And you mentioned about giving them things, and in my studio, just talking about boosting engagement, even though we're adults, we really like to win things, and my people will do anything for a t-shirt. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I do a lot of branded t-shirts. We call our people the tribe. And so I've done a couple of things like attendance. So, in our app, it keeps up with the attendance of how many times they come. So then we'll put up there, you have to get at least 15 check-ins for the month or whatever. And then you get a t-shirt. We've done stickers. There's water bottles, different things like that. So that has been really popular for ours, because then for some people who maybe struggle a little bit with that motivation to get in, they think, oh, wait, if I get my workout in, if I keep up with this, I can get that free t-shirt at the end of the month. So that's a little something we do sometimes, is just little challenges here and there to help them to come in more often. And Paul, what do y'all do down there for your boosting engagement and loyalty?
It's definitely about spotlighting them. If you tag someone on social media, it's going to go viral. They'll send it, they'll share their story, and that's how you just spread the tentacles. We've done the swag thing. We've had accomplishment tasks, as we've been affiliates of the Spartan Decapit program. It's this true sense of accomplishment, because there's working out and there's training, and training is meant to have a means to an accomplishment. So we identified with something like that. So be able to get a medal, to get a shirt, hold these events, you know, end of summer socials, beach days. These are all the kind of things that keep that collaboration. But the victories of, once again, measuring, managing in bodies, perhaps every 12 weeks, just to show the progress, to keep the trend going. It's incredible. Testimonials of them on social media, spotting their videos, all these things create the warm heart and retention.
Awesome. Really great answers, you guys. That was amazing from each of you. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about key metrics and what key metrics track success in small group programs. Marissa, I feel like because you do the consulting that you might have some really great ideas for this one.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're all on the same page. For anyone starting with small group, you really do need to look at your costs. Sometimes, especially in this field where everyone is so passionate about helping others, the business metrics fall to the wayside. So you need to be very intentional about, we started with pricing and now we're ending with this. What are you paying your people and how are you paying them? Or how are you paying yourself? Is it per session? Is it a percentage? So you need to be very careful about thinking how you're tracking those costs. Elizabeth, I think you might have mentioned in the downtime, you're using the studio or the space when it's not being used. You need to think about that in your small group. Are you using a space that is supposed to be used at a busy time? So there's a lot of things that go into it, including the marketing. Are you spending money on paid ads? Are you spending money on SEO? So keeping track of what the actual costs are besides your training, your instructor, whatever you want to call them, is really important. And I'm sure everyone here we could probably name 10 different metrics, but I'll just start with that, just knowing costs, and give that microphone to someone else so they can share some of their key metrics.
Yeah. Paul, would you like to tell us about yours?
So, like we said, the training for these programs, these DECA programs, these 6-week transformations, we love to do all types of boards where basically we give accomplishments. So on the board, let's say we do 6 assessments in the beginning of a program. All right. Now, each week of a 6-week program, we might focus on one of those assessments. So they'll get 2 miniature workouts to do autonomously besides their programming. And that way they can document their performance on that. And then once we go to retest at the end, now we can see their percentage change and improvement. And anytime we have a grid or a box, a big board on our wall, we yellow highlight that accomplishment as an improvement. And when you see the yellow lit up on a majority of the board, then not only are they looking at their individual improvements, but they're looking at the grand scheme of everyone's body of work. We have something in May called Go for the Gold. So regarding gravity and oxygen, we're all about the double entendre of using the word go. So it's 7 endurance challenges. People can pick 5 of them to complete over a 7 days. So they can pick their 2 days off and which prescriptions they don't want to do. And what we can do is we can see their numbers. And if they've completed it, once again, it's highlighted. Have they accomplished it? So we have these physical ways of measuring their metrics because I'm all about the management of the numbers. So those are things that we do and people can see it. The community can see it, these improvements.
All right, Elizabeth, share yours with us.
Oh, there's so many different metrics. I'll speak to metrics within an 8-week group training, for example. So some of the things that have worked really, really well for people, especially if they are anti-measurement or scale, is going with pictures. These are the things that people may not want to see. So we have offered assessments, whether they're weigh-ins, measurements, photos, but there's always something physical that goes along with it, right? So for example, there might be how many squats can be done in X amount of time, or how long can someone hold a plank position, depending on what the program is. We'll come up with the assessments that will be used, and the assessments are done every 2 weeks. And then the focus, depending on the goal of the program, is about the effort, right? It's definitely about the effort that they're putting in terms of their physical growth and the growth in their mental health as well. So we find different measurements depending on the program. So if people want to do things, and the 40 overcrowd where it's weigh-ins and measurements, it's fabulous. But for people who are shying away, there are different units of measurement that we use as well.
Great. How about y'all, Sheldon?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have like, of course, from my perspective, I've got the whole P&L statement I got to look at and make sure it's cash positive, not just net positive, it's cash positive, And so that said, beyond that, I'll give one more book I'll throw out to everybody. This is a great one. It's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. We read this book just 2 months ago, and it completely changed the way we looked at KPIs, because we've got this big dashboard that has everything on there, all of our revenue, all of our costs, all of our stuff. And then what we found out was that there's typically 1 or 2 most powerful things that you can actually do that has a ripple effect on everything else. And what we learned was that if you want to get your trainers, your support staff to actually buy into one specific goal that they all can have a say in and can impact, it tends to drive behavior. With small group training, even though we have all these things we could look at, we found one simple thing was it was just usage. Are people actually using their sessions or not? If they're not using it, they're not going to pay, they're going to cancel, they're going to freeze, suspend, trials don't pay. All the other stuff doesn't matter. Let me take that back. It matters. That was the key one for us. If that's not there, all other things fall apart. So we have a scoreboard we put up every week. And the scoreboard goes out to all the trainers and they look at their usage with everybody else. And if your usage is the one that's dipping below everyone else, it's like, well, you have to make a personal commitment. How do you do it? Why do you do it? So for us, we have a huge dashboard, but we try to isolate the one thing that the whole team can rally behind and dial up. And for us, that's usage.
Awesome. All right, Evans, we got about a minute to hear all about yours.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of everything that was said. I'm going to take it a different way. I'm more like Sheldon. I'm looking at the P&L. So I think one is monthly recurring revenue. If you're going to run a program, you have to know, okay, how much revenue is coming in repeatedly month over month. And that number initially has to exceed your base operating expenses. So that's the first one. And then if you're going to be marketing, you have to look at your ROAS. What is your return on ad spend? And you'd want to segment that by marketing channel. So if I'm doing Facebook ads, okay, and I got clients coming in, it's not the cost per click or cost per lead. Once that person purchases, how much revenue did I do in that month time based on how much I spent in advertising? As long as that number is over 1, I can continually double down on advertising. And then I look at churn. Churn is from the people I had this month, how many of those people did not go into the next month? So I want to control that number to ensure that I can keep the business growing. So that's a really, really important thing. And then of course, net profit. I want to make sure I'm making money. So just really simple numbers. My team manages different numbers. They manage things like, we call it attendance, you call it usage. They have to keep it at 95% or more, so that's a really important metric. And then referrals and upsells. How many people are referring or upselling into different services. That's something they have to do at least 2 per trainer in there.
Awesome. Well, to all of our participants, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. If you are here tonight or if you are listening or watching this webinar later, we are so thankful that you were here. Awesome panel with each of you, Evans, Sheldon, Elizabeth, Paul, and Marissa. If you guys will go in the chat and let everybody know how they can follow you on social media, that'll be awesome. I'm Amber from The Training Tool. You can find me. And before we leave, we have a quick little video we want to show you. And my assistant, Chris, here is going to pop that on, but make sure you look in the chat so you get everybody's info before we log off.
I am obsessed with Mania conventions.
Make sure you get yourselves to a Mania. It is a game changer, a life changer. It changed my life.
SCW Mania. This is a place to make relationships. People who come to this event all the time, we see each other, it's like, hey, I remember you.
I got certified at the conference. Just 2 weeks later, teaching full time, loving it. Students are loving it.
Never have I gone to a conference like this before, and I was welcomed with open arms.
Thanks so much. We hope to see you at a Mania soon.